I know it sounds so cliche, right? But it's like, I get it, because when you have a team and they're working so hard and they're building this thing, and so are you, but like you get to a point where you're like, I want it to also be a win-win for both parties.
Absolutely.
Even though you've wanted that the entire time, but now you're like, no, now we can really like my teamer made $50,000 in January. Like, who does that as a team member in the insurance space? It doesn't happen, right? It's not as real, but like that for me, I wanted her to get this policy so freaking bad for her more than it was for me.
Welcome back to another episode of the newly branded A1 Experience. I've got my girl, a reoccurring guest. She's back again, and I'm stoked to have her. So, Cassidy, welcome back.
What's up? I know, look at you. This is so amazing. I'm so proud of you. Like, I don't know, I came in, I was like, can I just be you when I grow up? And like, I love seeing your journey. I think it's so amazing to see how you just continue to level up, and I'm just like really proud of you. So.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm trying to be like you, you know, that you're doing so many different things, awesome things, not just in the insurance space, but just as a mom, as a entrepreneur, as a wife, and you travel, and it's like, and you live and breathe the brand that you teach, and everything and all that. And yeah. I'm excited to dive into it. But if you don't know who Cassidy Arbeli is, she's a serial CEO running multiple successful businesses. She was a captive agency owner, gone independent. She averages over $500,000 in premium a month. And that's super impressive given that she has this lean, mean machine of a team. Ooh,
I know, that was great.
And she also has a coaching business. She helps women run or self-run businesses and live life on their terms. Man, so there's a lot. There's a lot that I want to unpack here. But since the last time we spoke, it was about maybe 2 to 3 years ago, not that long ago. What's new?
Man, I wouldn't say that. I guess there's not that much that's new. There's just been a lot of refining a lot of the things.
Always refining.
Yeah, and just like doing the most I can to continue to step away from doing all the doing and really continuing to open my schedule and take things off my plate and getting those things self-ran, which is what I teach. And you know, things happen. Sometimes you got to dive in and be there all the time in a specific business and do things, or sometimes the kids need you, or sometimes you're traveling a lot. And it's just really, I think I've gotten to a point where I'm doing even better at being proactive and scheduling far out the things that I know are coming down and just like being super prepared for that stuff. So that's been what I've been probably focusing on in the last year a lot. And then really just continuing to build all those businesses and just getting to the next level. Because even 2 years ago when we chatted, like if you would have told me we'd be averaging $500,000 a month, I'd be like, yeah, okay, you're high or something, you know, like I wouldn't think that would be the case. And it's just like we just keep showing up.
So let's start with the insurance business first. You have how many producers, sales, service, managers?
So I have 2 sales producers, which is still the same. You know, love my team. They've been with me, ride or die. And they primarily focus on sales, commercial specifically. We do personal lines, but it's mostly commercial. And now we're getting into even bigger accounts. Just in January, we sold $1 million policy. I know I had texted you. I was like, bro, like this just happened. It was so cool. What a way to start the year. And then I have 1 CSR full-time. And the reason why I only have 1 and I don't need more is because we've automated a lot of things in our business. So renewal processes, cancellation processes, onboarding processes. I mean, all those different systems we have is just really tapping into technology and software and being able to, whatever we were doing manually, be able to do in an automated space. And then we have 1 person that really does a lot of like the back end management of all that technology and all that data and trying to figure out where each person is in the journey of being a client with us and how to make sure we maximize opportunities and pivot and retain their business and stuff. So 4 people now.
4 people.
Yep.
Wow. And so you're really using AI, using a lot of automation, you said?
Yeah, so we use something called Monday.com. It's a project management software. It's just a cloud-based system. Anybody can get to it. And what we've built, I call it like the glorified Excel sheet system, but it includes options to automate and basically tell the software, like if this happens, then do this, right? So that type of automation. And then it also integrates with Outlook, with Twilio, which we use for texting. And let's just say, for example, if somebody's renewal date comes around, it knows 3 weeks before their renewal, send them these emails, these text messages, and prompt them to let us know what we need to do for their renewal. So instead of us calling, instead of us having to do all this manual work, it happens automatically. And so it saves us a lot of service. And it's just a very consistent system and process workflow that allows us to give the client the experience, the same experience in the same system, or the same processes of how to work with us and how we're doing things. So not only is it predictable and they have a consistent experience with us, but it happens to every client every time. And so we don't have to guess, did you call? Did you do this? It just all happens.
The world that I'm in, and probably a large group of my audience, is the captive world with the stuff that the captive world has us, the processes and the workflows. Is this something that a captive agent should be doing as well? Or
I mean, yes, I feel like everybody should be doing this. Not only do we use Monday for like the automation and the integration of different softwares to get all this stuff done, and you can do a lot of stuff with Zapier depending on what it looks like, but it also is a way that we track so much data. I can go into our leads board, for example, and know percentage down to each person of what the marketing source was, like how'd they hear about us. And then out of the people that we got as leads and prospects and the marketing source, we can also look at, well, which companies did we bind with and which one of these did we sell the most to and how much premium did we sell, right? So a lot of the metrics that we should be measuring in our business, in this industry, it's just so much easier when you can see it that way. And sometimes the agent management systems that we have to use or we choose to use, depending on if you're captive or independent, just pulling reports and pulling all this stuff, it's so hard for you to be able to see it visually in the right way. So even if you don't use a system like Monday for automations, you can still pull the data in there and be able to use it to really analyze what's happening in your business, because it's so hard to do it when you're just pulling a bunch of reports and you're printing out these PDFs and you're looking at it on your desk. Because I remember doing that at State Farm and being like, I don't understand what any of this means, right? Like trying to put it all together. So it absolutely can be used. Obviously, you have to check with the company you're working with on possibly moving your client's personal information, but it can absolutely become an approved vendor. I mean, even when I was at State Farm, we used something called Prospect Plus. And if anybody's watching this and you've been with State Farm for a while, you know what that is. And it was a third party that we would put in all our leads and we would track all of our sales and kind of like the follow-up process. So I feel like captive companies do allow you to use other systems. It just depends.
We do.
So
we use something where we're tracking the lead source, zip codes, the bundle ratio, like we're tracking all of that. But my team is doing it manually. Is your team is doing this manually? Is there any other way to automate that? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I honestly, what we did is we actually started with the leads board, which again, it's just like an Excel sheet, in a way, if you think of it that way. And we have all the clients that are coming in or the leads. And then across the different columns, we have the different things we want to track. And what is great about Monday is that once they're sold, like we push the button sold and we update the status on there, it moves them into the sales board. So then we have all the sales we've done. And so really my team only has to put the information in once. And then it just moves through the different sections.
Okay.
So it's still tedious work because we still have to put them in the agent management system, right? But honestly, we're talking about maybe 5 to 6 pieces of information. And it also allows them to follow up on who the leads are. It's like a CRM and an AMS.
Okay.
So sometimes AMSs do have a CRM component in there and you can use that. I just think they suck, honestly. Like I have not found one that I think is great. And Monday's just fully customizable. So it's just what's working for us.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
You said something, I want you to elaborate on it, but how did you land $1 million policy?
So honestly, I feel like it's just been a long time coming of building our brand and building the reputation that business owners in town, at least here, just know us for being really good at commercial and understanding what clients need and how to explain it and how to make it easy for them, right? That's kind of our core values and the things that we want to do to make sure that we stand out and we're different from everyone else. And honestly, we just got the referral. It was one of our current clients that referred us this individual who was struggling with their insurance, whether it was the rates that they were paying, it was increasing or they were getting non-renewed. I can't remember, but suddenly it kind of fell on our desk and I was like, we're going to get this. And it's funny because I don't know if I told you this, but I think like 5 years ago, I put it on my vision board, or I put it out into the world with the team. I was like, watch, we're going to get $1 million policy one day. And sure enough, like it would have been nice to get it 5 years ago, right? But it happened.
Take longer than we expect.
Yeah. Everywhere I go, people ask me what I do, and I'm like, I help business owners be able to do business fearlessly by protecting their business. And I talk about how a lot of people think their biggest asset is their home or whatever. I'm like, no, it's your ability to earn an income. Because if you can't make money, it doesn't matter having this home, having this car, whatever it is, you've got to be able to earn an income. And with business owners, that's their baby. And when I tell them that, they're like, okay, you're the person I want to work with because you get it. And it's all about messaging and branding. And doing that across 13 years, right? You just keep getting bigger and better clients, honestly.
Yeah. We're going to talk, whether it's on this podcast or one-on-one, about messaging and branding. You've mastered that. And I like marketing on video, but I need to get my words right. So
which is harder. I feel like it's weird,
totally, it's totally harder, you know? So yeah, would love to dive into that. So that's how you land a $1 million policy. It just, you have all these things. It doesn't happen by accident. It's just something that led up to that. And
and it was definitely, so I will say January was a tough month for us. My team member that was on point for this account was struggling to find a place to place them. There was so much information. I mean, this was like their full-time focus that month, right? But it was worth it.
How much you got to make to be able to afford $1 million policy
in their business?
Right. Like, it's got to be $100 million at least, right?
No, I don't know if they make that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how much they make. I don't want to necessarily.
No, you don't have to share, but
yeah, at least 40 to 50.
Yeah.
Annually to be able to do that. But you know, depending on what your business is, if it's like a massive trucking company, that's going to be the main thing you have to insure, right? If it's a lot of contractors or different things, it just depends. I'm sure it's probably one of their biggest expenses in their business, but they have to have it to operate.
Right.
So
talk about all the things you've got going on. I know that you have an aluminum like wall. Forgive me for not explaining that in a cool way, but I see you're at trade shows. You've got Unburden Your Business and coaching. What's taking the majority of your time?
My online business, Unburden Your Business, where we have online programs and also hybrid one-on-one consulting for women in insurance, just helping them learn how to build their business and really create systems, knowing those metrics that I kind of talked about to measure how to really build a team and lead, how to simplify it, how to manage your time so you don't have to be doing all the doing, and really be able to design your business for what you want, is taking the most of my time. One, because it's, I think it's the most time consuming because you have to create a lot of content. You have to really show up time-wise for the clients that you have. And honestly, it's the thing I love to do the most. So
it's most fulfilling.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you would do it.
No. I wouldn't.
I don't think,
no.
I
think because it's like growing and there's a lot of parts to it, even though a lot of it's online based, I just keep wanting to do more stuff because I love doing it. And so I could absolutely stop and say, okay, this is all we're going to kind of do. This is what we're going to focus on. This is what we're going to be the best at. But there's just so much opportunity and so many things you can do. And I probably with this business have more kind of shiny object syndrome. And, you know, just coming into here in the studio, I'm like, right? Could I build something like this? What I do? And it's just like there's so much. And we also consume a lot when you build an online business because you're constantly online. And so then you're getting all these ideas.
Right.
But it's 100% what I love to do. Showing up every week with the women in our programs, like seeing them get transformation and success is, it's a high I can't really replace in any other way. The aluminum business we started back in June is doing amazing. That's also growing in revenue every single month. We're opening new wholesalers and new accounts every month. My husband just called me and said we opened somebody huge in Miami, which is really exciting. But basically we manufacture aluminum that's siding, cladding, wall coverings, and we're doing really big commercial accounts, which is ironic. We just finished a hotel in Hawaii where we completely covered the outside of the hotel.
Are you getting them for their insurance too?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
you definitely cross-pollinate in different ways for sure. And, I just talked about something that I had a meeting this morning about a potential other business I might go into, we'll see. But even just talking to them and saying, listen, like, we insure so many businesses in the area. I work primarily with women. Like, this would be such a great fit because it's a lot about, you know, women empowerment and getting people together and creating a tribe and having people come to a safe space and all this stuff. And it's just like a lot of the businesses we have do connect with either something we love, something we already do, and be able to cross-pollinate in a lot of ways. So,
yeah.
Goodness.
So I want to be like you when I'm older, stepping into fatherhood. So that's
I want to hear about it. I'm so excited to hear an update.
A change.
I know.
And, you know, I guess let's just pivot into that. You know, how are you? I see you, and every time I see you post or something, like you're in some exotic place, right? You're in Cabo. I'm in Cabo with the family, or you're just living life on your terms, and you're and that's a lot of your messaging I see as well. But you live that. And how are you balancing, you're a mom of 2 or 3?
3.
3. Okay, I thought 3. And your husband's an entrepreneur as well, right? Yeah. So what's that dynamic like? Because I'm stepping into that same world right now.
So I would definitely say I wouldn't say it's a balancing act, you know, where it's like people are like, oh, you want work-life balance? I'm like, no. And then for a while, I was like, oh, it's work-life integration, because you can't like balance necessarily. You just have to kind of integrate the 2 different worlds of entrepreneurship and business and work and all these things, and then like your home life and personal life. And now I'm just like, it's just life. Like, it's all part of life. Like, why do we keep trying to compartmentalize all these things, right? And honestly, I'm really big, and through my program and through working with women and just anybody in general about their business, I really teach, like, how do we build this business to give you the life you want? That's what it's meant to do. It's not meant to be like you devote your entire life to your business, right? How do we build it? And you might need to in the beginning, but knowing that we're going to get to a point where it's giving you the resources and the time that you can live the life that you want. And I'm just really, really strict on like my priorities. Like, it's me first, which sounds crazy to a lot of people because they're like, what do you mean? You got kids, you got a husband, you got all these things. And I'm like, if I can't take care of myself, I can't be in a happy marriage. So the marriage is second. And if we don't have a healthy, happy marriage, we can't be really good parents, right? So taking care of myself is a big thing, all of that. And even yesterday, I was in the middle of a Zoom. We just onboarded actually a new team member somewhere in one of our businesses. And I was talking to them, giving them like the business vision and all the things, setting up all the things they need to know about us. And the school calls me and they're like, hey, your son has his solar eclipse classes, but he can't go outside to see the eclipse unless you're here on property, because you have to take responsibility that they don't burn their retina or something, right? And I'm like, I mean, I live 5 minutes from the school, but I literally had to stop the Zoom because it was important for me that my son could see this eclipse. It's only happening 20 times, you know, in the next 20 years again. And I was like, listen, I got to call you back. And I'll be back in 30 minutes. And I ran to the school, got my kid out of class. We saw the eclipse. I got to see it. It was kind of cool. And I went back to business. And again, it's kind of like that work-life integration when you know what your priorities are and what's important to you. And then there's times where my kids want mommy and I'm sitting during dinner time in my office and getting some shit done. Like, they just know. And I integrate my kids into what we do. When they're out of school, they come to work with mommy and daddy and they help us with the things that they can help us with. So
how old are they now?
So I have almost 12, almost 10, and almost 6. They're all summer babies. Wow. I joke with my husband like in October, November, like, don't fucking touch me because I don't want any more kids. Like, this is the time. I don't know why. Like, the hours change. It's darker sooner. I don't know what it is. I'm done. So, yeah, you know, and it's, if you make sure you have the priorities that are important to you, and I do spend a lot of time working, even though it's like I have time freedom and I get to choose what I do, but I love to work and I love to create and I love to be a part of things. So I still work a lot because I choose to. I don't have to. It's different now. And I spend quality time with my kids. It's not always quantity. And I take each one on dates. Like last night, I just snuggled in bed with my son for an hour and we just talked about his day. So that stuff I think is more important than always having so much time with your kids. It's really about what's the one-on-one time you can give your kids, because that's what they want. That's what they crave for. That's what they remember. Yeah. You know? And then prioritizing every Thursday we have date night. Sometimes it's with other people and we get social. Sometimes it's just us. We prioritize one trip a year, which just me and my husband. We prioritize one trip a year at minimum with the kids. And then I also get a trip by myself to go with girlfriends or by myself. And he gets a trip to go do his thing if he wants. So again, it's kind of like trying to find those systems, right? Yeah. Like that you can adhere to and just use as a family unit. And then every Friday we have family dinner on Friday night. So my family comes. Friends and family and friends of ours come, or it's just us, a unit of 5 where we sit down and have dinner every week because that's what I can commit to is once a week. Yeah. And it happens sometimes more often and sometimes we're all just eating at different times. But again, just trying to pick a couple things you can definitely commit to is going to make a big difference for you, your wife, right? Like the way you build your family. And as it grows, you can change those. But yeah, that's how I get it all done, really.
Yeah. Your trip, just you, is that usually business related or no, that's just like me and the girls?
Yeah, honestly, it can be both.
Do you count the business ones?
Sometimes, because sometimes it's for fun too. You know, like I don't have to go to this conference or I don't have to go to this event. But sometimes I just do a mommy staycation in town for 3 nights. And
you have a good support system with your family, or do you pay for babysitters?
I would say it's a little of both. My 12-year-old now, she's 12, but I swear she's like 26. She's super mature. So like she'll babysit when we do like date nights, or if next week we actually have an event called All In Week where I have 10 women coming and we're doing 4-day intensive on their businesses. And my mom's coming in town from California to like be with the kids a little bit because my husband has to fly to Chicago. So like, you know, again, I was saying in the beginning, like I am now way more proactive in being able to, like, I know what the next 3 months looks like almost every single day until Nick calls me. He's like, want to get on a podcast? Like, I'm free Tuesday, right? Yeah. But I do leave a lot of space open to, like, enjoy life and go shopping if I want or have lunch with a friend or just randomly be able to show up to a podcast. But I know all of those things. So it's like, oh, we have a convention in Chicago. My husband has to be gone and I have an event. Grandma's got to come by. So sometimes we have times where we can't do things and the kids got to come first, but we have some help for sure.
Okay. Let me ask you, how often do you maybe bite off more than you can chew and then realize, oh crap, I'm losing sight of the main thing. And then you got to like kind of go back to the main thing and keep the main thing.
Yeah. All the time.
Okay.
Let's be real.
Thank God.
Like,
because,
yeah,
that's, I
probably doing it right now. I think though, I don't look for things to add on to my plate until I feel confident that I can handle it. Like I can handle a lot. Does that mean I want to handle all these things? No. But I also haven't had any issue saying this. Like I started this, I tried this, and I'm just not doing it anymore. Like we're done. And I think when you are someone that can get some successes and like notches on your belt, right? Of like, I've been successful before and I just choose not to do this because I thought it would be what I wanted, but it's not. You're okay with saying this isn't for me, I'm not doing it because you don't feel like a failure. You're just like choosing not to do it now, right? Where if it's your first time doing something and it's not working out, it's going to hit your ego. You're a little stressed and you start thinking you're a failure in that sense. So I think for me now it's like, if it doesn't align or it's not something I show up and want to do, it's a no, period. And it doesn't say anything about me. So I feel more confident just trying a bunch of things now to see if it's something that I'm interested in and not afraid for it to not be something I want to do.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
Kind of stop. I was watching something like a week ago where it was like, we're so afraid of judgment. And there's 3 different types of judgment that we are afraid of. It's societal judgment, family judgment, and friend judgment, right? Either your friends are judging, your family's judging, or society's judging you. I feel like when it comes to friends and family, I'm like, they'll get over it. It's more important what I think about myself. Like it'll be fine.
Right.
Society judgment sometimes is a little hard for me. So it's like, let's just say I decide I don't want to do YouTube anymore. And I just stop. Like, what are people going to think? They're going to come to my channel. They're going to be like, no, she hasn't done a video in so long. Like, blah. And so sometimes that makes me still do things even if I don't want to do them. But I remind myself, I know who I am. I know what I'm about. Like, it doesn't matter what other people think. So I think for me, that's been a big thing of asking myself, like, why am I so afraid to say no to this? It's just not for me.
Yeah.
And you have to have at least one main thing working for you revenue-wise.
Right.
To be able to do other things. And that's what insurance was for me. It was like we built this residual income machine that allowed us to have the income we need so we could risk money and try other things. And then we just kept going. And even with, I would say, almost every single business we've started, I look for things that are low investment and things that will connect with other things that we're doing.
Gotcha.
And really high opportunity.
Okay.
So that, you know, if even in the aluminum business, I mean, we had to spend quite a bit of money to stock up in the aluminum that we had. We had to figure out warehouse. We had to do all this stuff in marketing. But even still, for the amount of money we're making now to what we had to invest, it was minimal. And so the risk was low and the potential was so high.
Right.
So when you have really high potential, the likelihood of you succeeding is low. But I'd rather invest low, have that kind of small percentage of success possibility, but like knowing who we are and how we've been successful. And it's all about systems and processes. Like nobody likes to talk about that stuff, right? Like nobody likes to talk about making sure you have a good marketing and branding process and a good sales process and a good client customer service process, whatever. That's what it is. And then finding people that align with your brand and your vision. And they're like, I can follow steps. Cool. Can you do it with a smile on your face? And do you care about what we're actually doing? All right. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
So I think that's the part, the unsexy part of business that people don't like, which is what I love. And they just ignore it and they just keep white knuckling it and they get burnt out.
Yeah. How many employees do you have for your coaching business?
I have one.
Okay.
One full-time, helps me with all of our content, helps me with managing where the clients are in the journey. I think because clients kind of come in and come out of the programs, it's really easy for us to manage, and a lot of things are online. So I'm not having to facilitate anything besides showing up and being able to talk to our clients and stuff. So I definitely think soon we're going to, if we continue doing this and growing it and scaling it, we're going to need more people for sure.
Because you haven't even started running ads yet, I think.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
There's a whole new world out there for you.
And honestly, I still only spend a couple hours a week on this stuff. But if I was spending full time, like we would be scaling so much faster. It's just, for me, it's kind of just, I love doing this. And yeah.
Here's a question I have for you. This is probably a personal one for me to want to learn. So, which is, I have a lot of processes, right? Like we've built my agency and we've done a lot of things that have contributed to our success. Yeah. And one thing that I'm bad at is, I would say documenting, not documenting from a marketing perspective, but documenting all those processes, right? So it's like when you're here, my team knows what we need to do. Right. We have it laid out all in here. But I guess some people hire somebody to come to their business and then it's like, all right, well, and they give them a whole stack of papers and like, these are your processes because I was here for a week. Yeah. Do you have, are you subconsciously good at that, or how have you reverse engineered all the things that you have done to package that as the material that you eventually coach all these people with? Yeah, so honestly, there's so many ways. Like when we first started agency, we had something called the Office Bible. It was a 3-ring binder where we would like outline the processes and the workflows, and we would just hole punch it and stick it in there, and everybody had a copy, right? Like that was the processes. But also on top of just like documenting and capturing processes, whether you do it on Word or you do it in a video or however you decide to do it for your business, you also have to manage that your team's doing those processes, right? It's not just about, here you go, like, cool, throw that over there. Nobody cares, right? It's when we use something, for example, like Monday.com, and my team is required to track the things that are important that have to do with the processes and the workflows. So if you're not doing these steps in the process, you can't track the information. And they know that I am going in and I'm checking these metrics. That's when everything starts to flow and actually be systematized so that your team is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then you can see, based off numbers, is this working or isn't it working? And when your team knows that you're checking, that's when they are held accountable, even if you're not micromanaging them, which nobody wants to do, right? And the whole team has access to all these metrics. So now my team also looks at it and says, hey, we had a 62% closing ratio, and this is our #1 marketing resource this month. Like they're coming to me within this information, but that's because I've spent so much time saying, hey guys, this is what I look at. These are the metrics that matter, and I'm keeping you accountable and I'm making you track them.
So again, it's all about like creating those processes and systems, but also the metrics that you measure. When it comes to documenting and creating processes, there's a million ways to do it. For us, we have a section in Monday that has all the different core things that we do in our business, which honestly, every single business has these core things, which is marketing, sales, service or product, because it depends on if you're a service or product-based business, and then business admin. So anything that has to do with business administration, like licensing, right, all this taxes, all that stuff, finances. And in marketing, it has to do with social media, like all the different sections. So we make sure that it's by department, and we just do a bunch of Zoom videos. We use tango.us. I don't know if you've heard of that or used it before to capture. Oh my God, you're gonna love it. It's gonna blow your mind. It's literally like wizardry. Like it's just something you have to try. So tango.us for those of you watching. Basically what it does is you put a Chrome extension on your Chrome browser and you press play, and every time you go through a process on Chrome, it captures an image and it creates this entire workflow on how to do the thing that you're doing. Wow. It's great. So we have usually a video with a Tango kind of outline of the stuff, and then we're actually onboarding somebody right now. So we gave them the link to all of this stuff, said you need to watch all these things, and then they have the processes and they can go back to it. We also created an insurance term glossary where they can search a term and they have this entire definition glossary, right? So it's really about having these resources for your team and training them on the front end, but then how do you hold them accountable to get it done? That's where also I think people don't create the processes, and if they do, they're like, oh my God, this took me a year. Like, I'm so exhausted. Just, I don't even want to look at this ever again. But like, how do you actually hold your team to do those things? Yeah. So for me, it's like, keep it as simple, stupid as you possibly can. Also, don't dump a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Like, because I needed that when I was learning my licenses. I was like, I don't know any of this stuff. Like, I couldn't even tell you what's on those tests. That we took a long time ago. But I think you've got to capture. Stop. And the reason I rolled my eyes when you were like, it's in my head, I can't tell you how many times I talk to people. I'm like, you have to get it out of your head. Like, you just do.
Yeah. No, you said that on the last episode. But I guess for me, I really want to I want to have it laid out even better. I have it all laid out on video, right, for my course. But I want to have it just more documented and maybe in Word and just kind of have everything that we're doing in one little
Tango.
thing.
Trust me, tango.us is amazing. That's number one. But also, like, try to package it in a certain way. And that's why for us, what works is packaging it by those 4 different sections I was talking about. Because honestly, like, my service team doesn't need to know what sales does all the time, right? So it kind of condenses it to not be as much and as overwhelming when you just see a long list of different training videos and different things and processes you have. What's your sales system? What's your customer service system? What's your financial system? And really thinking about it in that way helps organize the information a little bit better. Gotcha. But yeah, I think that's why we also do video and some kind of written form, even a checklist, right? It's like, here are the 10 things you need to do when you're doing this process. Like, just keep it simple. And then instead of having a 20-minute video, or having both, where they can not watch the video again and be like, I know there's another step I'm missing. Here's the checklist. It takes me 2 seconds to go see what I'm doing. Okay. Don't be afraid to like add resources. Even if you have this video, it could be an infographic workflow, kind of like a funnel flow, right? I know you know what that means. So just trying to think of how to like give them the resource, because some people are kinesthetic learners, some of them are visual, some of them are audio. Like, it just depends.
But get it out of your mind is the most important thing.
But don't be afraid to use your team. You don't have to create all this stuff.
Right.
And honestly, I didn't. So use your team. Yeah. Who's doing marketing? Who's doing sales? Who's the best person you want to duplicate in your sales department? Right. Have them create a lot of this stuff, and they'll do it better than you can.
Yeah. Well, I got a graphics guy now, so he's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So another question I had was, what is your process for generating more personal referrals, or like the free business? Do you have a process, and how are you holding them accountable to, like, either asking for a referral, or, maybe do you have any sort of social media?
You're going to hate my answer.
But how are you generating business? Are you buying leads, or?
So we got to let me take you back just a little bit to give it some context, right? So when I started State Farm, it was 2012. yeah, I don't know. Dates seem weird to me now. Anyways, it was a long time ago, and it was when everybody was buying internet leads. It was like all the rage. And now
Everyone's
I feel
still
like
buying internet leads, by the way.
I feel
Probably
like they
more
are
than
more
before.
captive, maybe. But I feel like it was like the only thing we were doing at the time. And closing ratios were like 8, 10%. I don't even know what they are now.
A little bit worse.
But yeah, probably worse. And so that's all we did. And I will say I was really active. I would go networking myself. I was shaking a lot of hands. I also, you know, came from a family of entrepreneurs that built a massive business here in town that had contacts in town. So they kind of knew who I was a little bit. But a lot of that like networking stuff. And so I would go put myself in places where I knew business owners were, whether it was boards of things or whatever, going to galas and donating a lot of money to be at a table with, you know, high net worth people and kind of working in that area myself for networking. And then internet leads was a lot of what we were doing. So within like 2 years, I was like, maybe 3 years, let's say 3 years. I was spending so much money on internet leads. I'm like, this closing ratio sucks. I was noticing that the referrals we were getting, we were closing better. Yeah. And I wanted to do a lot more commercial because that's where the high money and profit was on the revenue. And I told my team, I was like, listen, you have 6 months. By the end of this year, I think it was June, and by the end of December, I'm closing off the internet leads. Like the floodgates are being shut off. And I said, so in the next 6 months, you better figure out how to get some referrals because your sales goals are not changing. Like, this is what we're doing. And we started playing games. We started to gamify the situation, which I love to do. I think you guys need to do it way more in any business you have some fun. And we would, every time somebody was on the phone and asked for a referral, we would give them like a raffle ticket for something, or we would give them an opportunity to spin a wheel, or we would give them an opportunity to pick an envelope with Monopoly cash with nobody knowing how much is in there, anywhere from $1 to $100, right? Like just different fun things that we could do to reinforce that behavior because they had to kind of retrain themselves. And eventually we started getting the referrals, and then they started realizing they were closing better. Like instead of 100 leads a month per person, it was like we could get 20 leads and close 10 of them, and I would do the same amount of business I did out of 100, right? So they started understanding how important it was, and it made sense. But besides that, my team also started building their brand and asking people or telling people like how they do business, like I was mentioning before. Like we work with these type of people. This is what we do. This was what makes us different. And I also think that us showing up and really providing personalized relationships, like one of the things that I tell my team, this is the main thing we do in our business is we build relationships. Yeah, we sell insurance. Yeah, we keep clients, but building relationships is the number one thing we do. And that helps them understand, like when you're on the phone with somebody, find out more about them, make it individualized, make it personal. It's a little bit hard to do when you're just being transactional, right? And so I think that as we've done that as a team, and I've led the fact that we're doing relationship building, and this is how we do this. We've been invited to weddings. We've been, you know, we talk about how these people become our insurance family. And what's really funny, yesterday when I was doing my Zoom call, I was like, this is the agency vision. This is all the things we want. These are our core values. This is what's important to us. And I was like, I don't know how we got to this, but I showed them our Google page and we were looking at Google reviews, and people were actually writing in the Google review, like, I'm so happy to be part of this family. Like the things that I was saying were our core values and our vision, like people were actually using in their words that are clients of ours. Okay. That is the strength of branding and messaging. I literally planted the seed saying, hey, this is what I want you to say. And this is what they said. But we also showed up and fulfilled that, right? You can't just like say, here's my brand promise and not fulfill it. And that's where I think like people are like, they're the best. This is who you need to work with. They are experts in commercial. And that's how we get the leads we get. Now, really quick. The other thing that we did, though, is when I left Captive, I was like, we're going to maximize on Captive agents. Sorry, not sorry. And we went out and we did pop-in marketing, which that's what I called it. And we would go in and pop into all the Captive agents and say, we know you can't write commercial. We want to write commercial. But the win-win was if your client is with you for auto and home and they want to switch to us or they're trying to shop, we will let you know, right? So you can't do this commercial. We'd rather be the ones to control where they're going. And hopefully they're with us and we'll give you a good reputation because we'll do a good job. but we'll never take the personal lines from you. And so that was a win-win. And it was a way, again, to message and brand to the captive agents, like, you should refer to us. And so that was also a really big referral. Right. I think we still have like 10 captive agents that send us anywhere from 10 to 20 leads a month. But those leads are like hundreds of $1,000s in premium for commercial. So again, it's just trying to figure out how to work smarter.
What percentage is commercial versus personal in your book?
We're about 85% now as of this month. I actually looked yesterday. Yeah.
85% commercial.
And like I said, I think before we started recording, we were talking about.
How big's your book?
Total?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not telling you.
Oh, okay.
The reason I'm not telling, I'll tell you off camera. The reason I'm not telling is because other people on podcasts have asked and I haven't said, so I didn't want to.
Okay, no problem.
I didn't want to be like, no, Nick, I'll tell you later.
She's like 48 million.
No.
48? So crazy. No, just kidding.
God, I don't even think, that's too much gray hair for me. I already have enough. No. But
you've designed your life to where, that's kind of what I struggle with too. It's like, for me, our goal is 30 million. I want to get to 30 million. We're at 19.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you for a second.
Okay.
Why?
Ready for this?
Yeah. What does that mean? What is it?
So I can't tell you why. So I looked at my goals from, I wrote a goal down in 2021 that I wanted to be like a $17 million agency. And now it's 2024. Yeah. We're going to be at 20 million in the next couple months. And it's like,
what's the next
let's keep
thing?
going.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going. Let's keep the main thing. And I'll tell you why. My reason why is I love creating more opportunities and paying my team really, really well. I have seen what being a $5 million agency was allowed me to do with management positions and salaries. And then I've also, as we've grown, it's like, wow, like I can afford better talent now. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big one. I love seeing the growth within my team, not just personally, but professionally. And I want to keep on creating that.
Yeah.
Man.
I know it sounds so cliche, right? But it's like, I get it, because when you have a team and they're working so hard and they're building this thing, and so are you, but like, you get to a point where you're like, I want it to also be a win-win for both parties.
Absolutely.
Even though you've wanted that the whole entire time, but now you're like, no, now we can really like my team made $50,000 in January. Like, who does that as a team member in the insurance space? It doesn't happen, right? It's not as real. But like that, for me, I wanted her to get this policy so freaking bad for her more than it was for me.
Yeah.
And like when we got it, like we took a trip to Disneyland and we celebrated and we did this whole thing and it was so fun. And like that, again, matters to me so much more now, because like the money's there. Like you've hit the 17 million. You're like, like there's just something at this next level. And that's why I asked you, like, what does 30 million mean to you? And also, the better talent you can hire, the better systems you can have, the better your business can keep growing and working, hopefully without you, right? And so it might also mean like Nick might be able to take a breather, even though we both know you're like, okay, 50, right after it.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I just had dinner with an agent that is 27 mil. Yeah. And he's like, oh, the goal's 50, and then if you asked him a couple years ago, he would tell you it was 30. Right. And so it's just creating just like you said, I think the bigger we grow, the more, I heard Will Smith say this the other day, and it got me thinking. Yeah. That he basically said, like, I've made more than enough money that I know what to do with. I just want to spend my life giving it back. And what's crazy to me is Will Smith is probably worth, if I had to guess, $2.25 billion, maybe $500 million, easy, right? Yeah. Has to be. And the fact that he said that now, I don't know, again, if maybe has said this years ago or whatnot, but I haven't achieved not even a fraction of that.
Yeah.
And I feel already that being placed on my heart, where it's like, God has been so good to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did to deserve this, and I want to give back. It's almost like not a guilt, but it's like I'm going to make this worth it for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I've always said, there's a big part of being a business owner that it's really important, the relationship that you have with money, because I truly believe money is a magnifier. Like if you're a shitty person, if you have a lot of money, you're going to be a shitty person. If you're a good person and you have a lot of money, you're going to do good with that. I don't think money really changes people. Like, it's going to change maybe your lifestyle and the things you get to, you know, indulge in and whatnot. But I think that you get to a certain point where it's like, okay, I've got enough to be happy. I'm content, at least feeling secure in what I'm doing. We're both very ambitious people, and entrepreneurs typically are. So you're always going to move the goalpost, and you're probably going to move the goalpost before you even hit the one thing that you're got the goalpost in right now. So I totally understand that, but I definitely think you get to a point where you're finally like, okay, now what does the next level look like? And when you were like 30 and I was like, okay, I'm going to challenge you. Why? Because it's not just about hitting a number. Like, we've got to put context to that. Like, what does that mean? What kind of life is that going to give me? What am I going to do with that money once I get it? And obviously that's going to give you more of a motivation to hit it and like just continue than just putting. So many people in our industry are just like, I want $1 million book. It's like, and yes, I've capitalized it because I did a boot camp called $1 Million Agency. But it's like, that's what they're saying. And it's like, why? And a couple of my clients have been like, well, I want to make this much money. I'm like, cool. What's it going to do for your life? What does it mean? And I'm like, what if I could show you that you can make that at a $5 million book as opposed to a $10 million book? And they're like, oh. I'm like, cool. Well, stop driving yourself nuts. You know, like, let's get to what you want first. Pay yourself, do the things. And then what else can you do with all that extra money and time?
Question for you: with the coaching clients that are joining your community and that are working with you, are most of them already insurance agency owners, or some of them you're like, this is what you should do, you know?
Yeah. So I would say it's probably a range. I've had and have clients that have been in this industry for 20 years, and it's like, hey, the industry's changing, I'm not keeping up, or we need a refresh, or they've suddenly gone through, you know, something that made them want to step back into really being active in their agency, to the point where people are like, I just got my license and I'm planning on opening an agency. And so really when I get on calls with them, I try to gauge, like, one, is this good vibe fit? Because I don't need you, and you know, like, and I know that sounds horrible, but it's like, I don't want to spend my time showing up and like not having a good vibe, because not everybody's a fit. And then the second thing is, even if they're brand new, I typically try to work with people that are at least 2 to 3 years in, because they kind of gotten rid of all that other bullshit underneath. And they've also proven that they can sell, because if you can't sell, you're not going to make it in this industry. Like, let's just be real. So that there's some revenue coming in, and then I can come in and help get them to the next level. But when I talk to agents that are just starting out, if they've got some, some sales experience, or they've got some things and it's like a good vibe, and I can tell they're an action taker and I can tell they're coachable, and they just like, I want to get this done on the right foot. I don't want to come to you in 2 years and be like, you know, I screwed up and I lost all this money and I spent all this time and energy, and like, I don't want to have to fix it later. So honestly, it's a range. But there's definitely people that have been like, look, it's not for you right now. You're not ready. Here are the things that I would suggest you working on. And I always give back feedback so that they know what to do. But it's probably mostly the year, I would say 2 to 5 to like 6. And they're just ready to like really clean up processes and systematize and step away from their business and stop doing so much of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's like the typical person that they're like, I'm working 12 hours a day, or I'm working, like, this business can't run without me, is like the sweet spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Well, I think we will probably wrap up here. Last question. I'd be interested to know if it changed since the first episode.
Yeah.
What are 3 standards that, you know, that you live by, or principles, just 3 standards that you live your life by?
Like, me personally, I can't even remember what I said last time, so this will be interesting if you end up doing like a comparison. I don't necessarily feel like I have like certain things defined. I just have like certain mental models that just like, you know, work for me. I definitely think I still use the mental model of everything happens with intention, and being aware of like what you want, spending time being emotionally aware, mentally aware, physically aware of like what's important to you. And that's all about setting intentions and being intentional with your life, because you are in control. And, you know, sometimes we victimize and we get that victim mentality and think things are always happening to us, but honestly, like, we're in control of so much. And so really setting intention of what it is that I want, and then the mental model is intention plus strategy plus execution will equal the results. And so I think I did say that on the last episode, but that's still a huge piece of like, what's the intention here? And like, how am I going to get this to happen? And then just go do it. Take the action. And when you do it in that way, you're just going to set yourself up for better possibility of success. Another one is I was talking about like just the marriage, like me first, then husband, then family. And then lastly, God, I don't know. I just always am looking for ways to just grow personally, like always reading, always listening to podcasts, always watching YouTube videos, always like going to retreats and conferences and just like digging deep into who I am and trying to figure it all out. You know, like the wisdom is worth everything and I just never stop. Sometimes it's too much.
It's crazy how you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
There's so much
there's
so much that we don't know,
Yeah.
and sometimes you're not aware of those situations until you're around the people that know.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't put yourself in those rooms or those situations, like I never want to be the smartest person in a room. Like I don't know. And you get it, right? Like you constantly are wanting to be around people that are challenging you and showing you what's possible. And because if you don't, you're just stuck in this bubble and you're never going to get better. But
I think also the older I get, I just want to be around the people that I admire, not just for business.
Yeah, of course.
But I want to be around good men, good fathers, good husbands. Like those are the people. I take business success with much more of a grain of salt now. And it's just like, I want to see the whole picture. And I think that's what intrigues me more nowadays. So
for sure. I mean, once you know, God willing, once this baby's here and you become a father and your family's growing, like so much is going to change with your perspective and you're going to be protective and you're going to see like what's really important. You know, you've been so focused on building business and this and that. And like, I don't know, you know, all of it's not worth it if you can't spend the time with your family or you can't give them the things that are important for you to give them, whether it's values, whether it's the lavish trips, whatever it is that you decide are important to you. But you can't redo it. So that's one piece of advice I'm going to say. Can't redo it. But I think, you know, just pay attention to the kind of values that you want to instill in your kids. Because at the end of the day, that's what they take with them when they're older. Right. And there's many times where my kids make these choices and I'm like, damn, I did a good job. Like, that's what I would have wanted you to choose. And then sometimes I make these choices. I'm like, fucking idiot. Like, why you do that? You know, and it happens.
Let me ask you this. Are you going to put them in private school or self-teach them or what you got planned with that?
So I've done it all.
Yeah.
Here's my take.
The more and more knowledge I'm getting on this, me and my wife were just talking about this. How I hated school because I was such a bad student, ADD, what have you. I don't know. But it was kind of traumatizing, like the whole school experience, just being around rotten kids and then, you know, sucking at school and then feeling dumb about it. Right. And just the whole school experience, you know, getting trash canned in PE one time.
We've all had the thing, like we've all gone through it.
I didn't get trashed, but I saw one of my good friends right in front of me. I was like,
I've been bullied.
Next, you know?
I've had all the experiences for sure. And I'm going through that with my kids, which is even harder, right? Like, whether they're being bullied or they're struggling in school or like the, you know, puberty time, all these things that are happening. And let me tell you, babies, diapers, bottles, waking up in the middle of the night, easy peasy. Wait till they're older. It's so much harder. So I've tried all the things. So one of the things I will tell you is don't ever feel like something's written in stone. Try. Just see if something's going to work. And each child's going to be different too. Like my daughter's thriving in public school where my son's struggling, right? And like my youngest daughter, like we don't know yet. She just started kindergarten. But we've had private school. We've done homeschooling. We've also done public. And it just kind of like you got to see what fits for your family first.
Got it. And
just try stuff and just see like how do you feel? I have my feelings and thoughts about public and private and the entire school system in general. Right. But at the same time, I also feel like I hate school. I don't even think kids should go to school. I think they should just create like a place where parents can take their kids to like kind of get babysat so we can work in a way, but where it's more productive for them becoming better humans as opposed to like this systematized like robotic style.
Yeah.
And then like making them feel like shit when they don't do well on a test, like so ridiculous. So we have a few things in our household that like we don't do homework. We don't care what your grades are. It's a weird thing. We could do another
Very
podcast
cool.
about this whole thing,
for sure,
right?
For sure.
But I also think there is some good things that they have when they go through like the public school system, because dealing with shitty kids, dealing with tough situations, they're going to have that for the rest of their life.
Right.
At the same time too, right?
It does.
And
It
so,
does shape you
yeah.
for sure. Absolutely.
That's why I was like, I don't want my kids to go to private
makes you
school.
relatable. It makes you relatable to different groups of people.
Yes. Because
So
private
that's
school
very-
kids tend to be in a bubble. And I went to private school for a while.
Yeah.
My kids
Wow.
did in the beginning a little bit. And I thought about putting them in private school. And I was like, let's just try public. We can always go to private. Like, you know, so again, maybe they will. They might go to like maybe in high school, my daughter will go to private. I don't know. But I don't put pressure on myself to like figure it out right now.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Cassidy, how can people find you on social media? I'll plug in all your links, but you know, I know you're on just all the platforms like myself.
Yep. If you just search my name, Cassidy Arbeli, on Facebook, YouTube, oh my gosh, Instagram, like Pinterest, LinkedIn, all the freaking places. I'm not active on all of them. I'm typically easiest to reach on Instagram.
But also your website.
Yes, CassidyArbeli.com. You'll find out all the information about all the things that we offer right now. And yeah. So.
Well, thank you so much for joining me again. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
You're a high value individual, and I don't take that lightly. So, Cassidy, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure hanging out with you.
Yeah.